And again, another activity here where we're going to take what you just learned about position stimulus prompts, come up with 3 goals that you have, uh, and come up with ways that you could use position stimulus prompts for those goals. The last type of stimulus prompt is a redundancy prompt. So this is where we are altering the color, size, or shape of the stimulus. Some examples of redundancy prompt examples. So we might have these different words, and perhaps we're working on reading, and the target words are we change the color of them. So instead of these all being black font, maybe initially they are all the color of the word that they read as. So blue is the color blue, green is the color green. That's an example of a redundancy prompt. So take 5 minutes here to identify 3 different goals that you have for your students and identify how you would use redundancy stimulus prompts and give examples. A review question. So a teacher moves the stimulus closer to the student. What kind of prompt is this? They have movement, position, verbal instruction, or redundancy. So as an example of a position prompt, position stimulus prompt, where we have, again, taken the stimulus and moved it closer to the student. So we changed its position. So now we want to focus on that second part of prompting. So first we have a selection of a prompt. We have our response prompts and our stimulus prompts. And then we have to focus on promoting independence. And that's through a process of prompt fading, which is what we are calling, or what we're focusing on there with prompt fading, is transferring stimulus control. So in our top visual here, we have a teacher says time to line up, gestural prompts at the door, so we're indicating where to go line up, student lines up, and the class transitions. That example includes a prompt, right? But our goal is for that to not be necessary. So we want to do some prompt fading because what we want it to be is we want to get that supplementary antecedent stimulus out of there, to where it's just teacher says time to line up, student lines up, and then class transition. So now we're going to focus on promoting independence through prompt fading techniques. So transferring stimulus control, again here, we want to take that response prompt or stimulus prompt really that we've added in to the equation, right, into our contingency, our ABCs. We've added that response prompt. Now we want to transfer control to the natural stimulus, to that A. So ways to transfer stimulus control, again, prompt fading. We have most to least prompting, we have least to most prompting, we have graduated guidance, time delay, and fading techniques. So with a prompt hierarchy, it's important that your hierarchy for your individuals are individualized, right? Like how you design the different prompts that you're using and when for your clients is an individualized process. Be- because it's about it being effective, right? We don't want to just have these kind of blanket, not say manualized, but these kind of cookie cutter prompting techniques that we go to, even when they're not effective for that individual learner. So you want to be thinking about what are the prompts that I have in my toolbox? How can I deploy them to these various goals for this specific client or student? And when I do so, what actually is effective for them, right? And then to just do the ones that are effective, and not to continue to do prompts that don't actually occasion the desired response that you are looking for your student, right? Prompts are meant to occasion that desired response. So if they are not doing that, then they're not functioning the way that we want them to. So therefore, they're not really a prompt that we want to be using. So with a prompting hierarchy, we think about these hierarchies in terms of kind of what I mentioned before. We have least intrusive prompts and most intrusive prompts. So we'll kind of keep our mind framed around that concept as we move into these different prompt fading techniques. So most to least prompting here, So we have our hierarchy. So we have full physical, which is our most intrusive prompt, and then it works down to our least intrusive prompt, which is like an indirect verbal prompt. So from there, this would be a strategy that we might use when we want to minimize the likelihood of, or then minimize the opportunity for errors. So as soon as the target stimulus, the target antecedent is given, you would go straight to a full physical to minimize the likelihood of an error happening, and then across time you would try to fade the intrusiveness of your prompts from a full physical to a partial physical to a gestural to perhaps an indirect verbal. Next, you have least to most prompting. So kind of think about it as the opposite, really, where you have first you're going to start with your least intrusive prompt, which was like your indirect verbal, and then you're going to work towards your most intrusive prompt if the learner is not exhibiting the target response. So I have my initial instruction. Um, I need to insert a prompt with least to most prompting. I'm going to start with my indirect verbal. If that doesn't occasion the target response, then I'm going to move down my hierarchy, going towards the most restrictive. So indirect verbal doesn't work, move to my gestural. Gestural doesn't work, move to my partial physical, and then on to my full physical if it's not working. So we're starting with the least intrusive prompt from the start. So a review question. So a teacher prompts the student to wash their hands by first using a gestural prompt, then partial physical, then a full physical. What strategy is the teacher using? Is it least to most prompting, most to least prompting, graduated guidance, or time delay? So the answer here is least to most prompting. If you are maybe thrown off a little bit because it wasn't an indirect verbal, something that's important to think about here is we're thinking about least to most intrusiveness and most to least intrusiveness when we're talking about those specific prompting. So you don't have to always start at the same place. It's just more about which way are you working. Are you working from most to least intrusiveness or least to most intrusiveness? Okay, a 3-minute activity here. Identify a goal for one of your students and create an individualized prompting hierarchy for your student for this goal. You can either do least to most or most to least. Right now we're going to talk about graduated guidance. So this is where we're utilizing physical guidance to evoke a desired response, to try to occasion that desired response. And with graduated guidance, we are going to be immediately fading out our physical prompts as the learner is demonstrating bits of independence. So we are kind of shadowing their movements and providing physical guidance support as is needed. So we're following their movement and we're changing the location of our physical prompts. So the most intrusiveness in terms of graduate guidance you could think about might be like a hand over hand. A less intrusive aspect of graduated guidance would be where we might change the location of that physical prompt from hand over hand to now maybe it's the wrist, maybe it's a part of the forearm, and now maybe it's the elbow, and maybe it's the back of the arm, right? So with graduated guidance, it's something that we're immediately trying to fade out as the learner shows that they're ready, and we're doing that by changing the location of where that physical prompt is.